Hello and welcome to the War at Sea Fleet Command video after action report for Avalanche Press's South Pacific Second World War at Sea game. We're going to be playing a particular scenario called Pistol Pete, and Pistol Pete is the story of two Japanese convoys and three American air raids randomly hitting one or the other of the two convoys. Now, we're going to be using the Vassal module for this, which is available from War at Sea Fleet Command. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how you get that. To own the Vassal modules, you need to own the latest copy of the game. There's only one copy of South Pacific. It's a new game. So if you have that, you're eligible to come and get the Vassal module. All you need to do is contact me, and my contact information is below. And you have to let me know that you own the latest version of the game, in this case, the only version of the game. Now, why is Vassal important here? A couple of reasons. First of all, it's a great teaching tool. It records everything. It has a log file, so I can play that log file back. And second of all, this is how I can play, because I have really bad eyesight. So for me, this isn't really an option to play the cardboard games. I have to buy the cardboard games, and then I have to make them Vassal. We're doing that with the permission of Dr. Benioff at Avalanche Press. He's aware of this and he's okay with it, and he's allowed us to distribute this as long as whoever is getting it has the latest version. In previous videos, I've tried to get higher production values, fancy die rolling and things like that. And while they look good, they take a huge amount of time. So I wanted to get some things out that were a little less formal. So I'm calling these video after action reports. We're going to be using Vassal today with its log feature and playing that log back. So I actually played this game earlier today, and now I'm bringing it back and commenting on it move by move. So I'm going to start just now, and in Vassal I'm going to go ahead and click on the forward arrow, and my first ship is placed. Now, in this scenario, there are a couple special rules. Generally, you want to put your ships in the tactical map wherever they need to start, and have them be stacked in one hex. But for an air attack, you don't want that. For an air attack, for an airstrike, you want to have all of your ships be on the map and be one hex apart. But this particular scenario says that you have two convoys, convoy destroyers, which I'm putting on right now, and a convoy of the Nisshin, a carrier, a seaplane carrier, and its escort. The rules state that these two carrier groups have to be 6 hexes apart. So you'll see that right here, they're not actually 6 hexes. So I'm going to be fiddling around and dragging these pieces to get them into the right spot. So you'll see the log will be changing as I do that, and it will be changing visually. But I'm just going to go ahead and do it. All right. And the log plays each of these moves back one at a time. So now I've just brought out my first aircraft. This is the air cap for the destroyer convoy. It's a A6M2N, and it is full strength. And then I'm going to go ahead and click again, and I bring on an F1M. So the F1M is on the page, and every time I move these guys, by the way, you'll notice it has a moved marker. The moved marker really means a lot in games with lots of ships where you're trying to figure out who's moved and who's fired. In this case, all the ships are pretty much stationary and the planes go to them. So I don't need that. So I'm going to clear that off every once in a while. Now I'm going to bring out the F1M that's the escort for the top convoy, the carrier convoy. And then I'm going to come down and clear my markers and add the first American airstrike. Just coincidentally, this happens to be the third wave of the American airstrike. It's a B-17. I just drag that in first. Doesn't matter how you drag it into the page. Then I'm going to bring the first group's escort, which is F4s, and then that takes a step loss. The way aircraft are represented in the Second World War at Sea is in steps. The face-up counter is the 2-step version, and the face-down counter is the 1-step version. Okay, so there's the next full step version coming in. That's 2 steps, and then another 2-step version, and it's getting reduced to 1 step. So now I have 1 step of escorts and 3 steps of Dauntlesses. I'm going to bring in move them around to see them. Now I'm going to bring in the second one. These are Marine Corps F4s, and they also get a reduced step. And then I'm going to bring in 3 steps of Marine Corps SBDs. And there's my Marine Corps SBDs. So it's ready to actually start the game. So I'm going to make sure everything's right here. I'm going to bring on my escort and my Dauntless, first Dauntless, and then the second Dauntless. And I'm clearing the move markers because they're just annoying at this point. So now the Japanese cap has to hit the escort. Well, first, the Japanese cap has to locate the strike. Once the strike is located, the cap gets to attack the escort. So we'll see where we are here in the game. So there's the cap versus the escort. And the rule there is the 10.8 interception rule. The Japanese player needs 3 or greater to intercept, but it's a -1 for the rain because it's a little harder to see. So the Japanese player rolls a 3 and they do not intercept. There's no interception. Now we take that the combat for the aircraft now is over. For the strike has to face the AA of the Nisshin. And the way that anti-aircraft works in this game is that everybody, the Japanese, can combine their anti-aircraft fire, but not the Japanese. The Japanese had a doctrine that I like to call every man for himself, which meant that they would only defend their own ship, regardless of what was happening around them. Very much unlike the Americans at this time, or the British or the Germans. Not that the Germans had a whole lot of naval combat, but the Nisshin is on its own. So what we do is we take the Nisshin's factor. It's 2. It's in that red box in the corner, and we divide it by 2, so we get 1. So there's 1 anti-aircraft hit. So the hope with an anti-aircraft hit is that if you get 1 anti-aircraft hit, it drives off 1 step of the bombers. If you get 2 anti-aircraft hits, it destroys 1 step of the bombers. So the Japanese player, there's a rule right there. The Japanese player rolls a 3, so there's no hit on the anti-aircraft, and the strike goes in as planned. It's a miss. So the SBDs attack. The naval attack factor of the SBDs is the number in the lower right-hand corner surrounded by the white box. Because it is circled, that gives them a +1 in their naval attack. Right? The aircraft is a dive bomber, indicated by the orange triangle. That gives it an additional +1. Rain, however, gives it a -1. So it's going to be just a little bit harder to hit, a net effect of +1. That means that bombs are going to hit on a 5 or a 6. I'm going to roll the attack now. And I've got 3 steps there, so it has 6 attack factors. So I'm going to roll the many dice button. The many dice button gives me as many dice as I like, and it arranges them from smallest to largest. So I can go and look at them, and I can say, well, 6 is a hit, 5 + 1 is a hit, 5 + 1 is a hit, and then 3 + 1 is a 4. So everything below the 3 doesn't matter. So this means that there are 3 hits on the Nisshin. So let's go ahead and see what damage they do.
I had to fix this in post-production, which is kind of cool because you always hear that in the movies. But what I wanted to tell you is that you should open up the ship data. To do that, right-click on the ship counter, and the first choice there is ship data. Once you have that up, drag that whole little window off to the side, or the map will obscure it the next time you click on the map.
So a 7, 10, and 3 bombs. So bombs get plunging fire, and so they hit and do 10, gives you 2 hull hits, 1 hull hit plus the additional hull hit. And because it's an aircraft carrier, it takes off a deck, or in this case, a capacity box as well. So the next hit is a 7, which is a primary gun. Because this ship has no primary guns, that hit translates into a hull hit. So that's a 3rd hull hit for the Nisshin. And then the third hit is a torpedo mount, but the Nisshin doesn't have any torpedoes, so we don't do anything. So you'll notice as we've taken those hits, we have been able to mark them on the ship data sheet for the Nisshin. And so we've got capacity. We lost 1 because of the 10 that he rolled there, and then he has 3 hull hits. So this guy's dead in the water. He's pretty much crippled right now, which is great. Then this air attack is basically over. So I'm going to go ahead and down to 1 hull. First wave is over. So I'm going to take those planes and get them off the board. It doesn't really matter whether we delete them or whether we put them in an allied box because for the sake of this scenario, they're still gone. Now the Japanese still have their air cap and all the conditions are the same, and we move into the second wave. So I just moved my piece closer. And the second wave, the Japanese rolls a 2, attacks 1 level above. Now the Japanese player needs a 6, and that would normally make this impossible because it's a -1 for firing above your level. But a cap at 6, there's a rule that if it gets a 6 on a cap, it is an automatic hit. So it gives you a chance to get these guys. So we're going to go ahead and use that rule. There's another rule we'll talk about a little bit later called 20.6, which is another randomizer here. But the Japanese rolls a 6. And now, so the Wildcats are hit. Now the Wildcats fire back before the damage is taken. And they roll a 5 and a 6. So they get a hit too. So it's 1 set, 1 hit each. So each side takes a loss. Right? Which is decent. If there would be a third wave, you could probably get rid of that F1M. But these are pretty small raids. So now the surviving F1M gets to take a shot at one of the Dauntlesses. And he's going to do that, and he fires a 3, and then the Dauntless fires back and gets a 2, so there are no hits there. Now the strike starts. There are 6, I didn't take these anti-aircraft on this, and I should have. There's 6 attack factors on the Nisshin, same as it was earlier. So when I roll the dice, I get a 6 and a 5 and a 4, and then on lower. So the 4 is +1 is going to be a 5. Not good enough. 5 and 6 both hit. So they're going to hit. And the die rolls a 3 and 10. 10 is 2 hulls. And the 3 is a torpedo, which is ignored. So Nisshin loses all of its hulls and it sinks. So that actually fulfills the victory objectives of the game. But we're going to keep going. So the Allies win. But now we got to do the B-17 raid. We got to do it because you don't get a chance to fly B-17s very often here. So I'm going to go ahead and let that go. I'm just going to clean up the corner and put that stuff away. So interestingly, we actually finished that log, and we're going to open a new log right now. And you can just stack them on top of each other and keep playing from where you were. So I've opened the new log, and I'm going to keep playing. So the first thing I did is I brought my B-17, and I've got to find out where that B-17 is going to hit. So it has to check which convoy it hits, and it's a 2. So it's going to hit the destroyer convoy. Now the B-17s attack the destroyer convoy, and I'm moving that around so that they're there. And there's an intercept roll. The intercept is from the F1M and the 0, and they both get it. So I'm going to put the plane on the page, get the Japanese cap in there, and then they are at level low, and the B-17 is level high. So it's a -3. So there's no way that they could hit that B-17. Not the -3 is the range. So the way that we do this is that there's a rule called 20.6, which is, I could get you the rule name, but that's not important right now. It's 20.6, and it allows you to make impossible shots under some conditions. So you figure out the difference between what you need and what you can get. And then in this case, you need a 6, but the best you can get is a 4. So you need to roll a 6 to hit, And then you need to roll the difference between 6 and 4 twice or higher. So that's a bad way to put it. So let's just look at it. So I have 5, so I'm shooting my 5 shots, and I had none that intercepted. If one had been a 6, then I would have had to roll a 5 or a 6 twice to make that hit work. It's kind of odd, but it works out really well, and it gives you a chance for that golden BB where somebody does something really incredible. In this case, there actually was a guy that did something incredible, and that's why this situation is notable. There is a the pilot of one of the F-1Ms was named Katsuki, and Katsuki approached the B-17 even though he was above his flight level, and purposely crashed his plane into the wingtip of the B-17. Katsuki and his second, they bailed out just fine, but because they clipped the wing, the B-17 spiraled into the ocean. So they actually saved their ships from one bombing run from a B-17. Very unusual, but you want to have some of those really unusual things able to happen, because those are what make your game really interesting, I think. So there's no interception, and then the B-17 gets to attack the Fubuki, and it's going to attack with 9 points. Now it's at rain and it's high altitude, so it's -2. The max die roll is 4, but again, it gets to have the same improbable hit, 20.6. So I'm going to drop the bombs, and none of them are close. If one had been a 6, then I could have rolled a 4 or higher twice, and I didn't get that. So I'm going to call this the end. I fired back at the airplanes, actually, and I got 1 hit, so the roof actually loses 1 step. Should have left that in. But that's it. That's the end of the game. The Americans have won because they sank the Nisshin, and you got to do a B-17 raid. So I generally like to hear myself talk entirely too much, so I'm going to end this, but I wanted to say please give Second World War at Sea a try, and try out some of the cool scenarios in the South Pacific. And if you own South Pacific, get the Vassal module. Come check it out and see how it works. I think it's pretty good. There's a lot of neat features here, and I'm not just saying that because I wrote it. I hope you guys all had fun, and thank you very much.